Hello, and a warm welcome to the latest episode of the AI Edge podcast provided by Leena AI. Today, I have a very exciting guest with me, Mr. Paul Narayan, who is the EVP and CIO at GEODIS. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Edith. I appreciate you having me on this podcast.
Absolutely. So, to get started, Paul, can you tell us a bit more about what GEODIS does and a bit more about your role for our listeners?
Sure. As you introduced me, my name is Pal Narayanan. I've been with GEODIS for 14 years. I have responsibility for IT and implementation for the Americas. So GEODIS is a global supply chain provider. We have presence in 60 countries, but we really operate more than 100 plus countries where we do business in. We are one of the fastest growing supply chain companies in North America. And we do end-to-end supply chain. We touch all parts of the supply chain, which is contract logistics, transportation management, and freight forwarding, air and ocean. We also do last mile delivery recently, which we acquired a company a few years back. And so we are in that space also in United States. So yeah, we are a total end-to-end supply chain. We touch every part of the supply chain from destination to origin. We are around 50,000 employees, like I said, based in 60 countries, but do business more than 100 plus countries. And our global headquarters is in Paris.
Wow, Paul, that is quite something, right? Like 60 countries, 50,000 plus employees, and doing everything when
Yes.
it comes to logistics. I'm sure that's some size of operation that you're running there. So, given your leadership in IT and especially running transformation projects at GEODIS, how do you see agentic AI accelerating digital transformation, especially in logistics and supply chain?
Sure. So one thing I want to set the context at it in something that me and my boss were talking about that last 6 months. So we are a big contract logistics company that also grew up in freight forwarding and transportation. So
Right.
for us, innovation for a long time was within the four walls of the warehouse, where we did a lot of automation, robotics, and name it, whatever the shiny object is, we implemented within the four walls. Innovation was our bread and butter within the four walls of the warehouse. But the last 1 year, slowly what we have realized, and my boss has realized, and we are doing a pivot of this. Innovation is now, yes, we are very good in robotics, very good in automation within the warehouse, but we realized how disruptive AI and generative AI, agentic AI is, that we have now rolled AI into the innovation, and it is now the centerpiece for us for what are the changes we are wanting to make at GEODIS. So it is that important. It has become from from the standpoint of where we want to go. So it's the central piece that he wants to attack, and so that puts IT in the forefront of it, which is always exciting. So that is one of the important things I want to point out to you in the podcast, people, how important this thing is, because it's moving at a very fast pace, what the disruption is. So to be in front of it, I think all our executive team members are focused on it. So coming back to your question, the agent AI, and which is the latest of the AIs, where you are deploying agents to do a lot of the work. And I will go through an example where we really implemented it and we are seeing the benefits of it. So we do spot brokerage, transportation management is one of the lines of business. In that, we also do what we call it spot brokerage. If someone in the morning gets up and decides they have to move a load, they're going to post it in a board because it's spot brokerage, and we usually respond to it. And if we can, do a bid on it, and win it, we will move the transportation. This is one part of the business we do, and we are growing rapidly in that. So we have only so many people who look at the board bids and then quote on it. So what we did like 6-7 months back, we realized, okay, there are so many things we do not quote on, and we said, okay, let's start looking at AI, how AI can help with it. So we went and got a third-party product, which will give us the rates, because rates are very important, because you need to make money out of what you're quoting. So the rates are automated by an agent, which will get you the best rates for that what you call lane that we usually work in.
Right.
And then we are also implementing an agent which will then look at the board and start quoting on it. This is along with our agents who are on the phone quoting. This thing is now able to take on both the agents working together is able to take on stuff which we are not able to get to, because
Wow.
we don't have enough people to answer all the phone calls, all the emails, and the board people where they post on the board code boards. So this is really, given us a leverage that we are able to use agent AI to to do these two things. We are also looking at implementing how do we want to now scale this to carrier negotiations, where we have now agent AIs where we can answer phone calls, negotiate the rates, get the rates from the other agent and pass it on, and then close the load. So this is something that it has been very useful for us, and it's a practical example where the agent AI has come in place. Again, this is multiple agents working together to finish up a task. So that's one thing that we really have taken advantage of.
Absolutely. This is amazing, Pal. I think I must commend you for being able to actually deploy something in production. Can you share some of the insights on the challenges you faced while setting the system up? Because when we work with a lot of CIOs and C-suite in using agentic AI, there's so many problems like, hey, data is bad. You don't know what to do with the edge cases. Like, where does a human come in the loop? How do you establish a certain set of transparency and trust in the entire system? So those are some questions that the listener base of this podcast would really love to understand from you, having implemented something in production. Like, how did you go about these challenges?
So one thing which we realized is I don't think we can build everything in this. What we are seeing is there are niche players in every aspect of this, in this particular example. So we found the niche players who are able to do that very well, and now use them as one of the agents to the thing, and then feed the full cycle of it. So finding the right partner who you are comfortable working with to deploy them in your ecosystem is very important. But you also know all these partners are all startups and small companies. These are not very big established companies that you ask them to fill a lot of questionnaires, all those things. That is the traditional way of working. But I don't think in this space that you have to be agile. You have to find partners who are startups. You might be willing to work with them, because we are a big global company, but then we have to fine tune how we are working with these startups so that we can use their technology and then integrate with our ecosystem, which is the backend systems, to do this. The other point is we started small. We started with one lane where we were most comfortable with, and we had the best track record of making money. And we knew, by experience, what those rates should be. So we let the agents quote and then made sure that we stayed close to it to see whether we are still profitable. And then, we are expanding slowly to other lanes. But one thing is, what I'll say is, yes, you feel uncomfortable, but it is the same thing as you're hiring a new employee. Let's say you hire a new employee who you have to train for 6 months. And they are anyway going to quote with some algorithm you gave them, and they always check the next person who is the person who's coaching them or training them to say, hey, is this right? The first few weeks they have, is this right? Multiple times they ask, and then slowly it gets better. The same is with the agent. So you have to think about the agent as a new employee you're onboarding. Whatever you do with the new employee and how you train them is exactly how we tell the operators, treat this as another agent, the agent as another new employee. And that change management really worked. And so we were able to deploy that. Those are the two things I'll tell was very, and you had an operation who was keen to try it, because for them, they were leaving so much business on the table. So they wanted to find a way to, grab that business, at least 50% of what they leave in the table, if they get it back. That goes to the bottom line. So they were willing to try. So this was a win-win for everyone.
Wow, Paul, I think there's a lot of knowledge you just dropped in this in a quick 2-minute answer. Like, first was like making sure that there's actually a business problem that you're trying to solve, right? So that's a big pain point, right? The second is you got to change yourself as well, right? Like you are a large company, but you need to understand that working, because all of the companies working or at the bleeding edge of agentic AI or any kind of LLMs are going to be smaller companies, right? Like
Niche
it's
players. Yeah.
right. So you have to change your ways of working as well to work with them. Third is, experiment and like ramp it up slowly, right? Like do it in one area where you are most comfortable with, most confident, and kind of then replicate the success across. And in think of the first one as just like as you mentioned, and I love that analogy, like hiring a new employee, right?
Yep.
Just think of it like training period in that first area, and then scale. I think this is a very nice way of putting this. I've never heard someone put it so like in such a structured, easy format. Paul, really appreciate it. I think our listeners would love to hear this. Uh, I'll move on. So GEODIS, 60 countries, 50,000 plus employees. You've mentioned I've been reading your post, and we were talking earlier as well. And you mentioned the importance of development of nearshore and offshore teams, and especially given the global nature of your business, you have people everywhere, right? How do
Yep.
you envision AI, agentic AI, LLMs helping streamline some of the workflows and improving coordination across these dispersed teams across the globe?
Sure. I will tackle this in two ways: one from the IT side, and then from the operation side. You're right. So we have even from my team standpoint, I have teams who support United States across three continents. We have the nearshore team in Mexico, we have the offshore team in India, and then we have the team in the United States. One of the biggest challenges, which as we are ramping up our offshore team and nearshore teams, is the scale of United States operations in, say, contract logistics. You don't have that maturity in India. So you're not able to go into a warehouse to see how exactly a warehouse in the United States is set up. Because we have, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, some of our warehouses have high automation that is push out almost 600,000 SKUs a day on a given day. That is a lot of automation in one warehouse. So I can explain to IT team members who are coming on board in India all day long in how this warehouse works. But it is very difficult. We have video sessions where we do those things and walk them through everything. But one of the things also we as a company have a lot of SOPs. SOPs are standard operating procedures in warehouses, which there are so many that has been developed. So one thing that has helped as what we call is GEODIS GPT. It's a GPT which helps them summarize how do you do inbound in, let's say, that in an apparel warehouse, which is little different from groceries, which is little different from every line of business. There are so many SOPs for a person who's just starting new as an IT team member to understand what he's supporting on the other side. I cannot expect someone to read who's fresh out of college in India almost 40, 50 pages of documents to understand the entire SOP of receiving. So one of the things ChatGPT does very well for us is, which we call it GEODIS GPT, is summarize and give them exactly how it needs to be. That gives them a very quick learning process, how things work inside a warehouse in kind of receiving. And from that, they can build their knowledge base pretty rapidly. So one of the things is the training has really come down a lot. It's easy to train them when I take them physically there and I can walk them around. But it is so difficult to train them, when you are so far apart. So that has really accelerated our knowledge transfers when it comes to that. But it's not only now we are offshoring IT, but we are about to offshore engineering and also back office billing and other back office tasks, which we call it wave planning and all that. So all that, absolutely, training is very necessary. Absolutely, how we operate these SOPs. So that has been very helpful on ChatGPT, and the teammates have come along much faster in the last 2 years. They're able to use it for training and keep going. The other one is the collaboration. I will say that when we are having conference calls, when we hand off in the night and then the next day they hand back here, even between operations and IT, when so many tasks are going back and forth. Definitely the AI technology has helped us coordinate all the emails, get everything together on handing off some of the manual tasks, which we are just now piloting, we are able to consolidate all the stuff that has gone on for the 12 hours when they hand off to a different team, is all easily summarized and pushed out. Otherwise, someone needs to sit and document it. The delivery manager or the agile scrum master documents all these and brings it back, and then the next person has to read it. So that collaboration going back and forth between different time zones has really been helpful on what we have been deploying, where it summarizes and sends out the notes very quickly, and people are able to get with their job next immediately.
Yeah. So because you mentioned the IT teams and the engineering teams specifically, so now I'm curious, are you already using AI to code?
Not yet. So the one which we are exploring is the GitHub Copilot of Microsoft. We are a big Microsoft shop from the .NET development side. So we have two things. We have the platform which was developed 20 years back, which we are slowly migrating into newer modules, starting ground up. So what we have done is we have integrated GitHub Copilot into that. And one thing which we have realized is we have to train, like I said, like a programmer, we have to train them on the new code base, on what our code is structured. So we are in the process of doing it. I think we are in the initial phases, but we do see the benefits of it because it gives a framework for all the fresh graduates. Because what we do is we have both fresh graduates in US and in India starting, plus experienced people. So it really cuts down the time of someone explaining the basic framework, how it is structured, and what are the minimum requirements before you start coding, is all done by now the AI technology. That has been very helpful on the new platform. On the new one. But
I think that makes sense.
Yes.
Internally at Leena as well, like we adopted this. Of course, we are an AI company ourselves, so we adopted this very, very quickly. And what we realized is, if there is a very large repo, right, like where you have millions of lines of code, right, trying to start there doesn't make sense, right, because it gets confused very easily. It's not able to find. But of course, it's getting better at that too. But like right now, everything new, writing functions, quick functions, like writing new code is definitely a much better way to use it for now. And then also with documentation, right? Like so all of that too. So it makes sense.
Documentation, and it's also really helping in testing. As we build the test cases out, it is really helping us in testing. But what we have seen is we started our India journey, offshore journey 4 years back. Wow. And when we started not too long back, we can see definitely when we use GitHub and Copilot in training the new employees compared to what we started 4 years back. It is only getting better over time. We are learning. But we have made it a point that we are going to use it. There is no point going back because the world is going there. There is no point saying, hey, we will use this when the world has figured it out. I don't think that is a strategy that will work in this case, in this disruption. Definitely, we have to bring it on ground floor on the new development. And we have been lucky in the sense that we have a huge new development that is happening. And we are able to accelerate, and our thinking is next year and then subsequent years that it should be able to handle 20 to 25% of the break fixes. That is where we are going. We are not looking at what we are getting today. We want to look at what we are going to get in 4 years if we continue to train this in our model. Again, our code base is, compared to big software companies, it's not that huge. It is reasonable sized, it's medium sized. And I don't think that'll be a bridge too far to get this all trained and take advantage of it in the next few years.
Love it, Paul. Love it. Going back, so you mentioned specifically on the lines of, training, right? Like that people can now nobody's going to read long manuals, right? 50-page manuals, right? So people can. Have you also given this to your operational folks who are on the ground, or is that something that you're thinking of?
No, we have. So one thing which there was a gentleman here who was telling, hey, his grandkid who was 3 years old is using the iPad and he's a genius. Okay. I think his grandkid will be very smart. I have no doubt about it, but I don't think that it's the grandkid who is genius. It is Apple and Steve Jobs who figured out how to make this technology so easy for a 3-year-old to do. more than reading and writing before they can read and write.
Yep.
So, long-winded answer is on the operation point of it, which I'm leading, getting to your answer in a long about way. We have to do it right the first time. Otherwise, operations will never use it. We have to make it so easy for them, they have to use it. So the first year we were in this journey on AI, ML, and modeling and all that, we really did it outside the main flow of the operations because we were learning too.
Yep.
So now our focus is to make sure that it's integrated into the operations workflow.
Yep.
Operation doesn't need to think twice or differently because it just has to be part of it. So you have to do it right and make it easy for them, and it is part of the flow. If it is outside, I don't think it's going to work. It will be very good, and it will not be sustainable. They might be using it because I go stand there, and then when I'm leaving, they have gone. So just to give you an example, so what we did is in the warehousing business, we run big warehouses. Shrinkage is what we call when we lose products. Due to various reasons, we do cycle counts. Okay, cycle count is just to go to a bin to make sure the system says there are 10 articles here. I'm going to send someone there to make sure there is 10. So we cycle count and say, yep, I have 10, we're good. And you think about it in a warehouse that has thousands and thousands of SKUs, how much labor you're spending to doing cycle counting.
Yep.
The cycle counting is just to make sure that you are not losing stuff. That's it. Okay. You're not even preventing the loss of the stuff.
Yep.
You're not coming to the root cause. What we developed is the algorithm, which is an open source algorithm which we used to start predicting in each warehouse what is the ones which really you need to focus on, rather than focusing on all the bins on cycle counting. Where should we start focusing? What are the ones which get lost the most? Okay, so the algorithm started learning and then started sending the cycle count people to those things to focus more on those things to focus. But when we added outside the system, the adoption was not that great. Now we have integrated within their day-to-day system, so the algorithms, rather than the supervisor, is telling PAL to go, hey, this morning go cycle count these locations, because it knows that these are high valuable items that tend to get lost, and from the history that we have, which is already starting to learn, and it directs you there. So this is a very good example that we have been able to implement. Is one of the examples that we were able to do in open source. In this case, we didn't buy a third-party software. We developed it using an open source. We trained it in our data, and now it is integrated into our workflow so that it goes around and then it's finishes the loop. So we found that very helpful. We have done white papers on that. That has been extremely successful for us.
No, I think this is amazing, Pal. I think you made a very, very important point. First of all, congratulations on building so much, but also the point I was mentioning is you have to make it a part of the workflow, right? Like, so, and in earlier, like pre-LLM era, people used to talk about, Google, the search software. It's a very complicated software, but as a user, you just get a bar, right? Like you don't care about anything else, right? So if you're in New York, if you're in Atlanta, if you're in Bay Area, you ask what's the restaurant, Chinese restaurants close to me, and then you get an answer which is relevant to you, right? And that's what matters at the end. You don't care how complex, where it is getting GPS, etc., right?
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. Like, as business leaders who are listening to this podcast, think about building AI systems. They need to focus also and spend considerable amount of time on the usage, like how people will consume this, right? And it should not take them, it should not be another app, it should not be another link, it should not be another app on their phone, it should be within the application, within the ERP, within the whatever that they're using today. I think that's a very, very beautiful call out, Pal. Quickly moving on to the next part. So when I have a lot of these conversations with leaders like CXOs across large Fortune 2000 companies, what I see is a conversation around landing areas, like easy landing areas. Like what are areas where you can quickly land value? Like some of the things that we do, for example, is we go to a customer and we say, hey, land on like IT, HR, finance, help desk automation use cases, because Like that's high ROI, and that basically does not touch and affect any of your business, like direct out of, does not go to your customers, etc. And you can land those use cases to understand how this is working, right? What were your landing use cases, or do you even subscribe to this idea that, okay, let's try and experiment in this area first?
Sure. Our landing area was to start with when we started this journey 5 years back, when we had a team that we wanted to, hire data scientists and start this journey. Is our landing area was work on data that we had control of.
Okay.
Okay, so what I mean by that is, when we started this journey 5 years back, everyone said, let's predict when your package will arrive. Okay, great. Everyone was chasing that use case. Exactly, I'll tell you when something is going to be. But there is so many environmental factors in that. And I don't have environmental, the port congestion, all that's a use case that is very good, but it's big, and you don't have data for every part of that use case to manage it. Where we started is in our journeys, we started with where we had control of the data, we had confidence in the data, that what we do, that is half the challenge. If you have confidence in the data, then you're modeling something, then you can fine tune your model because your data is clean. So we focused within the four walls of the warehouse. Okay. So our landing sweet spot was, as we learned the technology, we learned it with the data we know and data we control. And that was very helpful in learning. Okay.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. And then, then what we started to realize, we cannot build our way out of it because the disruption is so fast. Let's find small partners who have unique edge cases or niche which they are working on. So I'll tell you, I was in the Bay Area 3-4 weeks back. There was this one student from Stanford came and pitched an idea. He had graduated and he had started a company 3 years back, and he's doing very well. His use case is very specific to freight forwarders, air and ship liners. Just quizzing, why did you do this use case? He said, my parents and my grandparents are forwarders. I saw, growing up, their challenges in that particular forwarding business, between Vietnam and United States. He lands up in Stanford, he goes to school, then he says, hey, I'm going to solve this problem. And what is the best place? And that is where all the startups are. So he starts a company up that specifically targets this use case, and he has built, Agent AI to solve this specific use case, to work with the specific software. And he's already signed up 3-4 companies, and he's doing very well. So you finding those niche players who have the business knowledge, who will then fit into your ecosystem easily. I don't want to overuse the word plug and play. It is definitely, in this case, finding the right partner to work with you to plug it into your system. And you immediately you will realize the benefits of that. So that was one use case which I saw 4 weeks back. But the thing is, there is a thin line between how many people can you work with. You see what I'm saying? That is what we are now trying to figure out. What is a good number? We can't work with 50 people. So we need to, that is a journey that, we are in, trying to figure out what we can do, what we will buy, and what are the niche cases that we can solve. So that, I would say, is the other thing you can solve for. And we're looking at few more softwares as we go along. We'll speak about that. But definitely, this is a very fastly evolving area.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense, Pal. Are you doing something for internal IT incidents and problem management?
Yes, we are. So we do use, like most of the big companies, we use the ServiceNow or HelpNow. They do have, they have their own models inside it, which is what, rather than be building something, I think we have looked at them and they are very good. The challenge on that side is more internal. We do not have the documentation on the resolutions of everything. So what we are doing now, the last 4-5 months, we have a separate team in India who is just building documentation, because it's not a part-time job, that's their job.
Yep.
Because if it's a part-time job, never works.
Yep.
So now we have put a focus on the technology is there because it comes with the platform. So we are diligently focused on getting all the thing documented from there, and we are piloting it to see how well it works. Because in the long run, the more we document and let it learn and it's self-learning, there's only so many problems. New problems don't show up. In IT, it's the standard problems that come up 80% of the time. So that's what we are focusing on right now. And we have already done the pilot. It has been very helpful. And I think we'll continue that road, because then we have to keep updating the documentation, which is very specific to us. But then there is also a lot of things which are specific to the industry as such. And those things it can pull in easily. So that's what we are doing from the IT standpoint.
I think that makes a lot of sense, Pal. I think you guys are innovating across the enterprise, and that's very, very heartening to hear and I'm sure our listeners will be learning as well.
Sure.
You mentioned about having, how many people can you work with, right? Like, I'm sure on the operation side, the number of vendors and suppliers you work with is crazy high, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So how do you envision Agentic AI actually helping in that regard? Because operations, and with having operations in like 60 countries, customers in 100 countries, how do you kind of make that more efficient using AI or Agentic AI?
I'll take two examples. I know we might run out of time. So one of the examples is we are in transportation management. Okay, we use drivers to move products. But one of the things is we have to, when we look at the drivers who are not our full-time employees, we need to have, they are driver operators is what they call. But we need to make sure their paperwork is all right. Okay, we don't do business with anyone if they do not meet the GEODIS standards of ethical standards on how they do business, and their paperwork is right. We check everything for you to be qualified as an operator or a driver for us. But that is the framework we operate, and we do not compromise on that. That takes a lot of time to do it. So what we have done is we have offloaded that to a different software. And that software, what we want to do is make sure that they are using Agentic AI to validate everything and also negotiate, as the PAL, as a driver, is uploading this document and then it's not right, you need to get an email back saying, hey, you have uploaded this, but there is a missing information in this, get this to me. So we want to make sure who we are working with, and the partner we have been working with the last 2 years now, they have a robust roadmap of using Agentic AI to validate the drivers, because the turnaround time becomes much faster on their side.
Yeah,
we are paying for a service. Yeah. With this software, it becomes much even quicker. Instead of doing it in 6 hours, they get it done in an hour. So we are seeing huge benefits in that. But the thing which, again, Adit, I want to say is make sure you work with partners who also have a roadmap that brings, Agentic AI or generative AI along with them. Yes, you have to work with companies who are, the startups, but also companies who you use to validate your drivers. And again, the second example I'll give you is, this is also big. On the warehousing side, we have what is called the Cyber Monday or the Cyber Week, where everyone goes crazy and buys stuff. Our workforce in the warehouse, in contract logistics, almost doubles or gets to 1.5 or 1.8 times what we operate within a matter of 10 weeks. And then it drops. So you're bringing so many people inside the warehouse to ship for Cyber Week, and then it drops. So it gets more efficient if you're using Agentic AI softwares on the other side. Okay, we do use a software. We use a third-party partner who validates all these people, but they need time to onboard all these people. But they are getting now faster because they are using the Agentic AI. We just want to make sure that they continue to use that technology and keep going with us, because we can't do everything. That's one thing which I always, my boss tells me, you can't be everywhere. Focus on the core, get all these out to people who are doing it, as long as they can come along with you in the technology, and then they can connect your system to our system, then we are perfect.
Amazing. Yeah, that must be something, right? Like double the count. But yes, I think that makes sense. Like you can use some of this technology, like Agentic AI, to help with onboarding and then offboarding really, really quickly, right?
Yeah,
that makes
so the paperwork is very important. You have to check the paperwork to make sure you're in compliance, because compliance and safety is something in GEODIS we do not,
Compromise with.
compromise on. Yeah, absolutely. That's always for us in the forefront. Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense, Pal. We've been recording for a while, and I have one last question for you, which is, you mentioned, work with partners, even the larger software players who have a roadmap to use AI or agentic AI, right? Apart from the niche AI companies. I'd love to understand, what is your vision in integrating generative AI, agentic AI into GEODIS's long-term strategy? Not just for operational efficiency, but also just for fostering innovation, enhancing employee experience, being more agile, etc.
Sure. From the IT side, we touched on it, which is, we want to continue to focus on how do we help our developers to deliver code much faster. And that is a long-term thing where you turn around the softwares we use. If we are able to turn around quickly and deploy what the customers want, it's a huge win. Because, the traditional method of, doing it every month or every quarter is not going to work in this world. So that is really, being fast-tracked for us. The second one I would say is, we have to put AI in the hands of the users. What I mean by that is, we need to make sure that they have the data, they have the tools to make decisions and do some modeling, some levels of modeling. So I don't want to use software names, but I'll say in this case, we have something called Data IQ, which is a layer which sits on top of our data. Our goal 10 years back was want to make sure that data is available to the end user to do what you call KPI management and visualization. The same thing should be taken forward to say, now the goal should be, they have the data, but give them tools so that they start modeling. And those models are then built on, and these tools will help them make better decisions rather than mining data and doing that. That is extremely important. Put it in the hands of the users. So that mentality has to be there. We have to, that is the only way we are going to be, successful in a big scale at GEODIS. So that is extremely important for us, because IT can only be so many places. So getting it to the users is extremely important. And then the other one, which on the development side is finding agentic AIs, agents which can do different things, and then try to see how do you make all the agents work together. And that is the next, couple of years, that how do we leverage all the agents to work as a team, as a, electronic team, or a digital team, to leverage the power of AI. But again, where I see the world going is more and more the physical and the digital are going to combine. The entire physical world is going to get digitalized at a very rapid pace. That means everything is interconnected. What needs to be connected will be connected very soon. But that comes with its own challenges and also ethics. So one thing which, I will tell leaders is, make sure that you understand the ethical part of this, that whatever we are doing, because everyone is trying to still figure out what makes you fast as a developer is going to make the hacker fast in hacking too.
Yep.
So there is a pros and cons to everything. If you can move fast, the other person can move fast too. So I would say where I would end it is, look at the ethical framework of how these things are going to evolve. We don't know. Everyone is trying to figure out. But stay close to it. Make sure you're within the ethics of where the industry is going, because we all have to work together at the end, all the technology leaders, even, and the big companies, to see how ethically all this works together. I think we're still figuring that out. That's extremely important, I think, at the end of it, for humanity's sake. And for our children's sake, that is important.
Love it, Paul. So basically, get ready for the agent sprawl and take care. Think about safety.
That's correct. Yeah, it's definitely, that is the next wave of things that's happening, and we're seeing that. Yeah.
Love it, Paul. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for spending your time and sharing your wisdom with us.
Sure. Hope it was informative.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Good talking to you all.